Alright, we're going to graph some ratios here, and we're going to do a lemonade stand. Let's have some fun. Let's make some money. Let's not lose some money, I hope. First of all, for a lemonade stand, Basic Business 101A, you need to make sure you have like a sad puppy face so that when cars drive by you, they want to stop and they want to give you like tips and throw in that extra dollar and say, here you go, kid. And you want to tell them, you don't want to tell them you're buying a video game with this money. You want to tell them you're buying math books, because people are supportive of your education. But if you tell them you're buying a video game or some sort of something that doesn't help you get better at math, they're not going to be very happy with you. And don't lie to them either. Buy some math books when you make the money on the lemonade stand. You don't have to buy a lot of them, but buy some of them. All right, let's focus. Mr. Schreiner's Block A class had a lemonade stand. They charged $5 for every 1 gallon of lemonade that was sold. Make a table and then graph this information to the right. So, let's not move our graph. There's our graph right there. Gallons sold, we'll call that X because it's the independent variable. That term hopefully comes back to you. The income depends on the gallons sold, so Y here, this is your dependent variable. The income depends on how many gallons you sell. So, if we were to sell, I don't know, 1 gallon of lemonade, we would make $5, and so we would call this 1, 5. And if we were to make 2 gallons worth, if we were to sell that much, we could say that it was $10, and we could call this 2, 10. And if we were to sell 3 gallons of lemonade, we could get an income of $15, and that would be 3, 15, and you could get the pattern. It would keep going, 4, 20, 5, 25, etc., etc. Now we have to graph these points. So I want to label this, make sure we understand this is gallons down here. And the income's up here. Income's a word we give money. When you're receiving money, we call it income. And then we're going to graph these points. I'm going to graph this in green. Typically, you graph income, money that you're making, or you write it in black, but black will be kind of hard to see. So we're going to graph it in green here, but we have 1, 5 and 2, 10. Of course, I can't forget 0, 0. If we don't sell any gallons, we don't make any money. That's pretty simple, right? 3 gallons would be $15, and I could keep going with this. I'm going to stop it right there. You get the idea. Now, we can actually connect the points here, because if you sold a half a gallon, which is possible, you could sell 1.5 gallons of lemonade, you would make half that money. So let's say we sold 1.5. We would end up selling somewhere between $5 and $10. It would be about $7.50. So we can connect these points up here, and this graph would actually keep going. And just so we're clear, I'm going to call this a green line right here. That way we can follow with the colors we just made. And this green line, it would actually keep going on and on. We could put a little arrow on the top here, because this would go on forever and ever. That's a terrible arrow, but you get the idea. It goes on forever and ever. So to get more practice with this concept, it's hopefully going to be relatively simple after these 2 examples. To make the lemonade and pay for the supplies, it cost Mr. Schreiner's Block A class $2.50 for every 1 gallon of lemonade sold. Make a table comparing the number of gallons sold and the cost of goods sold, and then graph this information to the right. Just so you know, this is not the same thing as the last problem. This is saying how much it cost us to make the lemonade. The last one was saying, how much are we going to sell it for when we, get people to buy it from us. So in this instance, we're talking about cost. Cost is usually something you write in red. We'll just write these numbers down in blue for now, like we did in the last one. But let's say we had 1 gallon sold, and obviously 0 gallons sold would cost us $0. 1 gallon, it would cost you $2.50. That includes cups, that includes ice cubes, that includes, if you get the frozen cans of lemonade. I don't know how you're making your lemonade. Maybe you get the regular lemons, and you have a processor that squeezes it for you fresh. Anyway, that's going to cost you $2.50. So we have 1, 2.5. We could write 2.50 here. It doesn't matter. You can do whatever you're more comfortable with. 2 gallons would cost us $5. $2.50 times 2 is 5. So this would be 2 comma 5, and you get the general idea. For 3 gallons, that would cost us $7.50. And finally, 4 gallons would cost us $10. Once we have our points written down there, we should label the axes. The independent variable here, again, is gallons, and the cost depends on how many gallons you're talking about, so the cost is going to be your y variable. And I didn't give my last one a title. I'm giving this one a title. I should have done it on the last one. I'm going to call this Cost of Goods Sold for Lemonade Stand. Very creative title. Not really, but you know, it tells the story. Anyway, we're going to graph these points, and I want to graph these actually in red, like I said, because red means that's where we're losing money. So these are the costs. So for 0 gallons, it would be $0. For 1 gallon, $2.50. For 2 gallons, $5. 3 gallons is $7.50, so somewhere close to 7 and 8. 4 gallons is $10, and again, this could go on and on. We can put a little line here, line with an arrow, because this is going to go on forever and ever. If it was 5 gallons, it would cost, you know, the same rate, 6 gallons, etc. It would be $2.50, however many gallons you're going to ultimately end up buying. So you see the graph there. Now, on this next slide here, I'm going to compare these two things. And a lot of times we're going to ask you to, you know, talk about the graph, compare what you see in the graph. So what I see in the graph, this money curve, and I should draw on the arrows here too. This money curve is going to, the green one, it seems like it's a steeper curve. In other words, it's getting bigger faster than the red curve, and that's good. That means our lemonade stand is what we call profitable. In other words, the income is greater than the cost. So that's a good thing. And you can see that for every 1 gallon we make $5, we lose $2.50. So if we were to look at this one right here, at 1 we have $5 in the green here, and at 1 we have $2.50 in the red here. And that rate continues kind of throughout the graph. So when you get up to, say, up here we have 6 gallons actually sold, that would be $30. And it would actually take 12 gallons for you to be charged $30. So that's pretty good. You have a pretty profitable lemonade stand. And so when you talk about this, one thing you could observe is that the green line is steeper than the red curve, so you're making more money than you're losing money. You could say that this is a good way to make a business, something like that when you're observing this. So hopefully this makes sense. You know, you have your X and your Y. As usual, you're going to know X comes first. You always walk before you take the elevator. And also, it's important to understand the relationship between the independent variable. Gallons is completely independent, and how much money you make or how much money you spend depends on how many gallons you ultimately buy.